Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Commander Clash podcast, where the Commander Clash crew talks all thing Commander. And this week, we are talking about a super sweet new Magic set. We are talking about the best cards, our favorite cards, from Tarkir Dragonstorm. But before we get into the set, we got a crew to introduce. Kicking things off with Brewer's Kitchen, probably better known as Phil. What's up today, Phil? How are you?
Hey, yo, very, very hyped about this set. That's the set where I started drafting again, getting back into Magic, and started watching MTG Goldfish.
Yeah, that's like when I started making videos, honestly. Oh, this set's so nostalgic.
Over a decade ago.
Yeah.
Don't say it like that.
You're making me feel old, Temur. You're making me feel old. Well, we got Temur down there making us all feel old. How are you today, Temur?
I'm excited for when we get to the retirement homes. We're all playing Magic. That'll be fun.
Seizure Inos and Mantis Riders. Yeah, just like it was in 2014.
Well, like the old days. I'm really excited for this set. This is the genuinely the most excited and hyped I've been for a set in like years. I love dragons. I think I'm very biased. I love dragons. Also, I love Tarkir. So like, this is like amazing. I'm super excited.
Yes, indeed. We got another host in Krim. How are you today, Krim?
Pretty good. I'm excited for this set, but not for the reasons that you would think. I mean, like, funny enough, like Commander, when this set was out, like this, I was peak Sweat Lord. So, like, the idea of me playing Commander, I remember, I no joke, used to just be like, why would I ever play Commander? That doesn't get me any Pro Tour points or anything, any Planeswalker points. So I like, not even a joke. I did not touch Commander. I played it like as just a bit with some friends, and then just like So I was peak PTQ grinding. I don't remember what it was back then. RCQ, things like that. So I'm excited this time around to look at this set and all things Tarkir through a casual lens.
I gotta ask you, Krim, were you a Siege Rhino player or hater when you were sweatily grinding in Con Standard? Because I think you're in either camp. Either you love that card and played it all the time, or people hated that card. There was no middle ground with Siege Rhino.
I loved playing against it because it meant that they were doing nothing for a long time. So all my counter spells would just be better.
Of course.
Not an aggro deck.
Yeah, not an aggro deck.
Jeskai Black, that one had stubborn denial, like that. Like, I didn't like that. Or, like, you know what I mean? It had counter spells. I didn't like that.
And of course, I'm Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and I am also super excited for this set. I was been thinking about this week how Wizards uses that, this set's not for you marketing line. Like, not every set's for everyone. And it's made me realize that when the sets that are really for me come along, I gotta fully appreciate them. And this set is just like super for me. It's when I first started making content. It's like got all these iconic cards. There's so many sweet designs, so many callbacks in the set. So I am also kind of like Temur, one of the sets I've been most hyped about in a few years now. And we got some cool cards to talk about. But before we get into it, we got some sponsors. Today's show is brought to you by Foil Armor. Do you have problems with your foils curling? Well, Foil Armor is the ultimate solution to flattening your foils. It's a two-way humidity pack that you simply put inside an airtight container with your cards, and Foil Armor will absorb and release moisture, making your cards completely flat. Put it back in your storage box to keep your cards flat forever. Head over to foilarmor.com and use the code MTGGoldfish to get 15% off. And our show's also brought to you by Card Conduit, the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. If you ever get tired of the hassles of buy listing, you can skip them with Card Conduit. You can use their curated service where you send in as many cards as you want with a buy list value of $1 or more, and pay just a 5% service fee. And if you want to do a bit of work, you can use the sorted service where you list and sort your cards in advance and pay just a 2% fee. And either way, you're going to get a detailed report with the results and a fast payment once your order is processed. And you can even get another 10% off by heading over to cardconduit.com/MTGGoldfish. Card Conduit, it's the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. So thanks to our sponsors for supporting the show. And now it's time for the comment of the week. So last week, I wasn't here, but y'all talked about 3 color combos in Commander. And our comment of the week comes from Robert Torrance 3773 says, we wanted to have a unified judging criteria this time. That's why we're judging by vibes.
Well, that's a criteria.
It is a unified,
It is. We just all agreed we judge it by vibes. And how did it go? Did you feel like the vibe technique worked better than the first time we did that cast?
I feel
feel
like
like-
the end result we all kind of agreed on as much as possible. Obviously, not all the comments agree on it, but it felt like a consensus to a point.
I feel like the only way to make all the comment section happy is to rank everything as S. Your favorite color combination? S. Perfect. Done. No more angry comments. But I think overall, though, the only way to rank it is by vibe. So I liked this attempt at it.
Except for that, we all agreed Naya's bottom tier,
Trash.
the worst.
And then obviously
The worst.
Riot players are in the comment section being blah, 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 blah. And honestly, I felt a little bit bad.
I mean, if you play
Naya doesn't
Voja
deserve the
and
hate.
hear this, like it is strong, but it's just whatever. Let's not get into this again.
Let's talk about dragons.
Yeah, let's move
Let's
on
go.
and talk about some Tarkir Dragonstorm. So we got a huge list of cards. We're gonna get through as many as possible, going around the room like normal, and let's kick things off with Temur. I know you're a big dragon fan. You got a Dragon deck even. Give us a Tarkir Dragonstorm card you're hyped for.
I got another dragon deck that I just built. It's
Ooh.
Ganax and Feywild. It's Izzet dragons. Ugh.
That sounds-
And I have Perfos dragons, the mono red. I like dragons. So anyway, as a dragon lover, I am obviously very excited for all the dragon cards. And what better to kick things off in terms of the hype of the new cards for dragon lovers than the flashiest one out of all of them, which is Dracogenesis. 8 mana, red enchantment, so 6 and double red. It says you may cast dragon spells without paying their mana costs. So it's essentially Rooftop Storm, which was like a zombie version of this. This is the dragon version of it. So it's 10 times better. Dragons are very expensive. They're usually like 6 mana on average. These allow you to just cast them all for free. And if you have like changeling cards that like are instants and sorceries, you can also cast those too because it's not just creature spells. But anyway, I love this card. If you have like a grip full of big, expensive, dumb dragons, you drop down Dracogenesis. If you cast 2 of those, 2 big, expensive dragons, it's already like fantastic in a red deck. And I'm also very excited to pair it with Dragonstorm, which I have an extra foil copy of over here. Like imagine you cast like this and then like any like 2 dragons and then you Dracogenesis. Yeah, I'm excited. Are you guys excited about dragons? What's the dragon hype level for everybody?
I mean, I like dragons. They're not like my favorite creature type or anything, but they're just like so iconic and popular. I always like seeing them come back because I know people are going to be super happy. Dracogenesis itself, like Temur, it's good for the Temurs of the world. But really, no, if you look on like EDH Rec, dragons are like the most popular creature type in all of Magic. Like, Temur's not the only dragon lover out there. There's a lot of them. With Dracogenesis, when I first saw it, I was like, wouldn't I rather just get 2 more mana and have Omniscience? But then I thought about it, there's a twist here, which is Omniscience only lets you cast cards for free from your hand. Dracogenesis lets you cast dragons for free from anywhere, which means with an Omniscience, I can't like play an Omniscience and then play Tiamat from my command zone and tutor up 5 dragons and then play all those dragons for free. If I have Dracogenesis, I can play my commander for free. I could play a dragon from the graveyard for free if it came down to it. So there's a bunch of extra synergy. So at first I was like, I'd rather just have Omniscience. But the more I thought about it, in Commander in specific, in a dragon deck, I think it's actually arguably better than Omniscience because of some of the dragon synergies you get with casting your commander for free.
That's true.
That's kind of true. Same with like future side effects.
Yeah, off the top of your deck, you can cast them for free from there. You can do from Exile if you got Adventure Dragons. Like these, you can cast all your dragons for free, which is actually a pretty powerful line of text.
It's so nuts. I didn't think they would make. I remember when we were talking about spoiler season, I didn't think they would make something like this because I'm like, okay, well, Rooftop Storm is already busted. This is going to be busted. There's no way you would make something that would cost less than Omniscience, right? In a dragon deck because dragons already cost as much as like 7 to 8 mana anyways, right? So the fact that you could just pay 8 mana to like go off and just spam dragons is wild to me without any like, I don't know, meeting any conditions. Like I thought maybe it'd be like 8 mana if you have like 3 dragons out or something like that.
No.
But nope.
I think it was the same amount as Omniscience. I think it would be a lot less appealing because then it would be like, yeah.
Someone Someone on Reddit
How's-
actually mathed it out, and like the average mana value of a zombie is like 3.4 or something, and a dragon it's like 6 or something. So it is way more powerful with dragons than it is with zombies. So I think that's the
Rooftop
scary
Storm
part
is
about the
6
card.
mana too, though.
It is 2
So
less
it's
mana
2
to
mana
get
cheaper.
going, yeah.
I
But
think
the
the
stuff
difference
you
between
can
6 is
cast
a
are-
lot. Yeah.
So
I also-
where does it go in the curve, though? It's 8 mana. So assuming you keep your dragons in hand, you ramp on
You Jessica's
2
will.
and 3. Or you do this. Yeah.
It's in red.
You can ritual into it, yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can
I
ritual
guess you
into
play
it.
ritual.
There's
in it,
lots
right?
of ways
Ritual.
to get this out real easy.
I think you
really,
don't
though.
have to go too fancy with it. You just like get to 8 mana. I mean, hopefully, if you're
Yeah.
drawing enough cards, you have dragons in your hand still, right? Because they're expensive. You can't really play more than one dragon a turn usually. So
The fact that you can play your commander with this is kind of sick. I didn't think
Yep.
about
yeah,
this.
for a dragon. Yeah.
Really good with
I-
our dragon and Tiamat. I think those are the two that I'm most excited about playing my commander for free, but really like playing your commander. Worth pointing out, since people might get confused by this, you still got to pay the tax, right, Temur? If you play your commander a
Yep.
second time, even with this out, you still have to pay that 2 mana tax. There's no getting around the command tax.
That's correct.
Well, let's keep moving on. Next up, we have Krim. Krim, why don't you give us a Tarkir Dragonstorm card you're hyped for?
You got me in the dragon mood, so I'm gonna bring up the dragon that I am actually building a commander deck for. And that's Neriv, Heart of the Storm. That's one red, white, black. It's a 4/5 flyer, and if a creature you control that entered this turn would deal damage, it deals twice that much damage instead. Now, this card I am so excited for because I want to play with my ankle shankers. I want to play with all like the Mardu cards that I had from prior. But the one thing I really like about this is like, yes, you can obviously play this with haste, right? Because I plan on doing so. But I also plan on having this weird sort of like ETB package because as long as it enters this turn, that's all it cares about. So, example, if you play Inferno Titan, the turn it comes down, you can deal 6, right?
Yeah.
Okay. This is the hard. Is it an Anatheomancer? Oh God, the one where it enters and then it deals damage equal to the number of non-basics your opponents control.
Oh, an
Yeah.
Ananthamancer? Ananthamancer.
Ananthamancer, there it is, and it's got like Unearth or something. So like that would
Seth
count
out of
the
all
turn it comes
people
down.
got the pronunciation
Hey,
right. What
I know my
yeah,
blood.
yeah.
What is the role?
Yeah,
Comes
wait, hold
to-
on.
Messes with lands. I know it. I can say
I-
those.
It's pretty cool that it doubles that, and then like you also have
Yeah.
cards like Myriad. So I'll be playing Auroral Survivors.
Ooh, yeah.
Right?
Oh.
So just all of those, and naturally, as you know, I mean, yeah, look, I gotta love my dragons too, right? So that means Glorybringer, Goldspan Dragon, all the hasters, and then like you combine that with the fact that like you get to like make some random clones off like Jolly Balloon Man, Colligan, right? So there's so many ways you could dash stuff, so many things you could do with this, and then of course Bedlam. But yeah, so I'm kind of building this weird ETB burn, but also haste. I love this dragon. It does everything I want it to do in Commander, which is it goes burr and it goes fast.
It's so
This
funny
really
that
feels like a Crim deck.
it does feel very crimmy. It's funny that you bring up dragons because I hadn't really thought too much about playing this as a dragon commander because I thought, oh, this is supposed to be like a mobilized commander because they have all these mobilized cards that make the hasty token so you get extra damage with it. So I thought that was the intent of it. But when you think about dragons, you have a good point. There's some really powerful haste dragons. There's dragons with big damage, ETBs, Demanding Dragon, Bogart and Helka. It's like stuff like that that's really, really cool. So it actually seems like a really fun commander. Plus, you can play
Seth.
some Panharmonicons. So
Thunder
mhm.
Dragon.
I got you. I got you, Seth. Here's what'll win you over if you don't love it already. Combustible Gear Hulk.
Oh, yes!
I guess you just draw 3
You
at
got
this
you
point.
got 3, yeah.
You can draw 3.
That's funny.
Oh, it sounds hilarious. I love it. So, any other thoughts on Neriv before we move on to our next card?
I like the mobilize plan. It triggers the talents, but also stuff like mirror match, maybe making copies with haste and stuff. That sounds.
Yeah, white.
It's an interesting wording on a commander.
Fanatic
We've seen
Mogus would be
some.
fun too. You deal damage equal to your devotion to red to
Ooh,
a player.
Yeah.
So that's a good finisher as well.
Oh, and we have the new
fling.
links. The links that does the
Ooh.
price of progress
fling
Hurts
down.
you too, though, right?
It does
Yeah.
hurt you
Whatever.
too. But
No, just have a good mana base, and then it doesn't hurt you.
Good
Also-
old 3-color basics.
I know, and plus, like I know y'all enjoy your wheels, so you could go Psychorax Commander, from Doctor Who. So that will because when
I
it
don't even know
enters,
what that's
each opponent faces a
Doctor
villain's
Who?
choice. They ditch all their cards and all the cards in their hand, and draws that many -1. Or Psychorax Commander deals damage to that player equal to the number of cards in their hand. So if they like their hand, they can take double damage.
cool. Such a cool build around. Definitely a super sweet commander. Well, let's move on. And since we're doing dragons, I guess I'm kind of going to stick with a dragon too. Not exactly a dragon, sort of a dragony planeswalker in Ugin, Eye of the Storm. So, new Ugin, this card's wild. 7 mana, 7 loyalty, colorless, of course. It says when you cast it, exile up to 1 target permanent that's 1 or more colors, and then when you cast a colorless spell, exile up to 1 or more target permanents, or exile up to 1 target permanent that's 1 or more colors. So you get these ridiculous static abilities, and then +2, you gain 3 life and draw a card. 0, you make 3 colorless mana, and then -11, which you can get to with 2 pluses with this card. Search your library for any number of colorless cards, exile them, shuffle, and then until your end of turn, you can cast those cards without paying their mana cost. So the ultimate is essentially draw your deck and cast it for free if you're mostly a colorless deck. So I will say, I don't think this Ugin is quite as good as Ugin the Spirit Dragon, because the role of Ugin the Spirit Dragon was to be a sweeper in decks that were bad at having sweepers. And this doesn't exactly do that, but in a deck that has a lot of colorless cards, either a straight up colorless deck or like an artifact deck, this card's ridiculous. Those static abilities where you play this and blow up the best thing on the battlefield, and then you cast a mana rock and blow up the best thing on the battlefield. Then you can even zero it to make more mana to cast another thing to blow up something else. Like, this is going to take over the board super quickly, and the rest of the modes are fine too. It generates card advantage. If you ultimate, you should just win the game. Like, I don't know how you don't win the game if you hit that ultimate. So I think Ugin's actually a really powerful card. My question for you guys is, where do you play this outside of colorless decks? This is clearly a colorless staple. What other homes are there for new Ugin that's not just colorless? What do you got, Temur?
Kadena players are salivating because
Oh,
Kadena's
face down.
morph. Yes.
Yeah.
The
Oh
face
my
down
God.
creatures actually count as colorless spells. And so Kadena, so imagine this. You have Kadena on the battlefield, you play Ugin, right? So you exile one thing just by playing Ugin. Beautiful. And then when it's on the battlefield, Kadena lets you play 1 morph spell per turn for free, right? So that's an Ugin trigger. Then you can 0 Ugin, and that pays for the cost. The 3 mana pays for the cost of putting another face down creature onto the battlefield. So in this sequence, you've played Ugin, you've exiled 3 things, and you've drawn 2 cards off Kadena in the process. And you have a bunch of blockers too. So how are your opponents going to kill this 7 loyalty Ugin that's now on the battlefield? It's ridiculous. You just take away like the best attackers in that one turn.
That sounds so
Oh.
cool.
Yeah, I wonder.
So
The Ugin the Spirit Dragon kind of doesn't exist for me, and I wish it didn't in general, because you can play it as a generic Wrath, but it's also one of the best Wraths ever, and it's kind of anticlimactic how oppressive it is because it's repeatable, and then some decks just can't win against this, and it exiles my entire Lonis deck, and then it sticks around, and -2, I'm out of the game again. So this is the best Ugin now because the other one doesn't exist, right?
But this one's pretty oppressive too. I mean, a lot of people are
that's
gonna
what I
be
mean. This
complaining.
one kinda.
It's really
I
good.
don't know if I could put it in my Mishra deck. It just rams a bunch, easy 7, not too much synergies. There's a lot of artifacts though, so I can just cast it, exile whatever hurts me.
I mean, Mishra's going to be a problem
0 it.
anyway. I don't think Ugin's
Cast
going to change that
something.
factor. Right?
Yeah. So the question is,
Mishra can't
how
live
good is it?
anyway.
So it's obviously crazy in a colorless deck, and colorless decks have become from kind of janky, they have to play whatever they get, to getting so much support that they are very good now if you don't interact with them. And now with
Void.
Ugin, that's just crazy.
Yes.
But even in a generic artifact deck, I would be very scared, and then it's super hard to kill because, like, even if you're... So you cast it and plus it, that's 9 loyalty, and they blew up the biggest creature. If you have 1 blocker that doesn't die on the first swing. It is very likely that you untap with this. And we haven't talked about turns where you untap with this. Like, it's crazy enough that you cast this, do something, and then you can minus it, do something. If you untap with this and you're even remotely colorless or artifact, oh lord. And the ultimate, whatever. I hope you win with this because I wouldn't want to resolve this.
Well,
I
the
mean-
weird thing is that my artifact deck is Jeskai colored. It sets in, and I think I actually don't have enough colorless cards for it to be good. Like
Yeah,
because most of
I'd
my
like to
artifacts are
check.
colored, so you have to be in a specific artifact deck that has enough colorless cards. I'd say at least like 50. Like I would have like 15, maybe less.
see.
Maybe could run less.
Let's
I
see
think
my
more than 15.
Mishra.
By the way, or else this is just because
15
heaven
seems
forbid if you
low.
play any of those cards prior to this hitting the board, right?
For sure.
So I don't know. Ugin to me doesn't scream like a oh my god planeswalker. The original one is by large a much better card, right? But this one, I mean, it's fine. Like I don't know, it's just like any other planeswalker. That'll happen when it comes to commander, except for maybe this time around, this one will actually make people's threat assessment better. And like, yeah, if this is on the board, they got to kill it. They have to absolutely have to kill it as a team, right? But I don't know. I don't think this is any worse than any other planeswalker, just because by nature of it being a planeswalker.
I think where it's good though, it's oppressive. Like if you have it in
Sure.
Kadena, it's so
yeah.
it's so
Yeah, it's-
groan-inducing.
It
And I
doesn't
love
go
it.
as many decks as Ugin the Spirit Dragon, but in the decks it goes in, I think it's going to be one of the best cards in the deck. The other home we didn't mention is Devoid Eldrazi decks. It's very
Yeah,
good because the
Ula
Devoid
Lake.
cards are colorless, so those are also going to cause it to pop out. The real question, though, this is how we determine how good this card is. Temur. Ugin's on the battlefield, Ristic Study's on the battlefield. You have a targeted removal spell. What's going to die, Temur? What dies? Is it Ugin or Ristic? That's how we can tell how strong this card is.
This is a real situation that happened before, Telmer.
It's always a risk. I'm sorry. There's no card. You could have a card that says like 5 mana, draw 50 cards, and then win the game on your next upkeep, and it has indestructible, and I still won't deal with it. I'll still deal with the Ristic. I hate Ristic.
That's fair.
Understandable. I have 33 colorless cards in my Mishra deck, by the way.
Oh.
So I
That's
okay.
enough.
That
That's
put it in there.
definitely enough.
Oh, and I think I forgot Cover the Jewel because it has the funny artwork.
I'm killing
I didn't
Mishra
put.
first anyway.
So-
It's not changing the math. Just run it.
Gotta go.
All right, Phil, why don't you hit us with a card?
All right. Unsurprisingly, we got another Planeswalker. That might be the surprising part once we read the static, though. So it's Elspeth Stormslayer, 5 mana, 5 loyalty. Static. If one or more tokens would be created under your control, creates twice that many tokens. That's already enough to trigger my, oh my god, that might go into Mishra senses.
Go into
Mishra,
every deck.
Manius Karga. And it probably will, because not only is it a Mondrak or Anointed Procession, these are usually very, very good, but usually they don't also make the tokens. But this one, for +1, makes a soldier token, and it's 2 soldiers, because static. And then for 0, this one's kind of crazy as well. Put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Those creatures gain flying until end of turn. Luckily not vigilance, otherwise this would be way too good and constructed. Still seems pretty good. And -3, this one's kind of underwhelming, but it's good to have. Destroy target creature an opponent controls with mana value 3 or greater. It's good, although this just makes it more likely to get it killed, because people might say my commander can't resolve with this on the board, so I have to kill this first. So I kind of wish it had one of these crazy ultimates that you don't just say, don't worry about this, I need just plus it for creatures. It kind of threatens this removal. Man, the doubling tokens, though, and making tokens. And then, okay, I'm not going to go into the clockwork things that happens once you plus this in Manius Karga, and then I'm getting into it, though. And then you draw a card, and then you create a token for drawing your second card with something, and then, everything doubles. And it also doubles, like, treasures and stuff. Whew,
Yeah.
love it.
I think the -3 is actually good, because it's like if there's a big creature that you can't profitably chump block, then you can -3 and kill it, and then
You get to say you ultimate.
and then you ultimate, yeah. But yeah, all these abilities are very good at protecting Elspeth. The +1's good at
It's 3
puts
upgrade.
2 bodies on the battlefield. The 0 gives something flying, so that if there's other
Gives
opposing creatures with
everything
flying,
Something flying.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah, I
Those
think that
creatures,
0 is the main thing for this.
Yeah.
Like I love it,
It's really
Phil.
good
I
to
love
protect.
all the
Gotta be the
token
plus.
doubling. I
It's
love
gotta
the
be the plus.
+1. Whatever. But legitimately, that 0 is the real card. That's the real ability here.
Nah, you
There's
only
a
use
reason
the
why
0
that
once.
doesn't go
the
up.
+1. The +1
No,
is crazy.
There's a reason why that
Making
doesn't
tokens
tick up.
and doubling tokens.
yeah.
Oh no! No, see, like,
Crazy.
I think
Okay.
all these modes are good. It just depends on.
Oh yeah, they're all good.
Can
0
Elspeth live a turn cycle? Then you
That's
the
choose based on
0
that.
ability is
Ooh, yeah.
+1 permanently. By the way, that is
Yeah,
you're just right.
yeah.
You put
Yeah.
a +1
It is
+1 counter on each creature. They all get flying, guys. That is so much better
is crazy.
than
Yeah, yeah.
everything
But
else this card is
2
doing.
Straight up a
tokens and
finisher.
card draw.
Yeah.
So
I mean, card draw.
I would end the game. I would just end the game. Instead.
Nah.
Yeah, me and Krim are
Don't
on the
end the
same
game.
level.
Nah.
I'm
Caretaker's
super-
talent, draw some cards, do it all around.
I'm super curious how you guys rank this card compared to similar effects. Because I think everything you said I agree with. I think it's really powerful. I'm just naturally skeptical of planeswalkers that want to sit on the battlefield for a while in Commander. Because the static ability is absurd, right? It's like it's anointed procession. It's an incredibly strong ability, but it is on a planeswalker. Yeah, you get a couple blockers out of it or a removal spell out of it. But how does this compare to anointed procession, Mondrak, the white O'Hare that triples your tokens and is a 6-drop? Is it the worst of the things that double your tokens? That's kind of how I see it. Like, if I'm playing a deck that really wants to double my tokens, I would still play this because there's only a handful of effects that can do it. But I think I'm hoping to draw Anointed Procession and the O'Hare and the Mondrak before I draw this one because I'm just too afraid that it's going to die before I get to have my cool big turn.
I think
they're
this
all
card
like
is the
anointed
engine,
possession.
right? This card
Yeah.
is the engine itself because it does make the token. It also does
Yeah.
the anointed procession. So it's all of it in one and it's removal on top of that. So I don't see this as just an anointed procession.
But you
I see
can't
this
attack
as
my
a-
Mondrak or Anointed Procession.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah,
you can't
Mondrak is the
attack
best
those,
of
but,
I think.
I
but
think
this
Mondrak's
is
the
able to
best of
generate its own
indestructible.
engine. And that I
But-
like.
I think this is like my second favorite because it actually does things the moment it arrives. Like you play Elspeth, you could just treat it as like, okay, it's a token doubler, yes, but I can play it and then it's 5 mana sorcery speed, I kill something that needs to die. Fine, but then it has extra flexibility on top of that. It's also the finisher for your go wide deck because of the 0 ability, and then the +1 ability. Like if you just need to make some tokens that happen to be chump blockers or something, it does all the things. So I like it. I would go like Mondrak, and then this, and then the other ones I don't actually even care about. Like I don't even like Anointed Procession that much.
Oh,
to be
really? You
honest.
don't play Anointed
Mhm.
Procession? Interesting.
I think they're kind of overrated.
So the thing is with all these cards, Mondrak can give itself indestructible, so I like this. It's also a sacrifice outlet in white, which is very rare. So this is probably still number one. The ceiling, or the floor of Mondrak is worse though. I guess it's a 4-mana 4/4 at least. The floor of this is super fine, I think, and the ceiling of all of them is just insane. So I think this one might. We'll see how it plays, but you're not going to play this on a super cluttered board, but you're also not going to play Anointed Procession and just pass. So all of these cards need a bit of setup. I will see. I mean, I'm going to try it. So
I
we're
will
gonna
say,
find how
the
good
Crim-
it is.
The Crim argument is actually the one that makes me think this could actually be good because what my Anointed Procession and Mondrak can't do is just come down when I already have a big board, and I'm a token deck, right? Come down by surprise out of my hand when I already have a big board and just one-shot someone. And that's something that you can't really do with Mondrak. I wouldn't put Elspeth in my deck if it didn't have the token doubling ability, even for the 0 ability. But the 0 ability, I think, is the biggest calling card for me to actually want to put it in my deck, even despite my fear of Planeswalkers just dying before they do anything in Commander. Super cool
This card, I think, is the more you're gonna see this more. I think and play better in more decks than Ugin will.
This will end games.
This ends games.
An engine that also can end the game for you the turn you play it, which is I love the flexibility here.
Also,
Even though it's
I
Planeswalker.
just checked the versions. The borderless versions got to be crazy in foil if they don't mess it up. Like it's just insane contrasts with the background and the wings. I don't know how I feel about these blue frames, but the borderless version, I heard that I opened this at pre-release and don't have to pay for it, please.
Hey.
Because it's very expensive right
Well,
now.
speaking of expensive cards, how about
Yeah,
I got one
let's
for
let's
you
go back to
over
the top
here.
of the order.
So, I like dragons. I don't know if you guys know this. And I'm very excited for another card that supports dragons. And it was like one of the first cards teased as like hype. Because it's a new Mox. Yes, the latest addition to the Mox cycle is Mox Jasper. It's a 0 mana artifact like all Moxen. It's a legendary artifact, and it taps to add 1 mana of any color, but you can only activate if you control a dragon. And so, dragons, you see, there's kind of a problem with this card. Dragons are historically very expensive. A lot of the ones that you see a lot of play in Commander are like, I would say the average mana value is about 6. So Mox Jasper in like that style of deck, if you're waiting until you're getting 6 drops on the battlefield, it's not going to do anything until around like turn 4 the earliest, turn 5, turn 6 realistically. So that's like, it's good still. I think it's still good. But I'm also, the one thing I like more than dragons, changelings. And oh my god, all my changelings, there are 1-drops that can be played on turn 1. So I bada bing, I play a turn 1 changeling. I got Jasper, tap it, play another changeling. Next turn, I untap. I have 3 mana at the very least. Oh my goodness, it's so good. It's so good. And also it has an old birder version, but for some reason they made it serialized only.
Yep.
And it's ruining my life because I want it so bad.
Just buy a serialized one, Tom.
Yeah.
Just casually pick one up.
Casually. What can it
just
be? $10?
I'll sell my condo. I'm
Good at
sure it'll be a
50
wise
bucks.
investment. I'll tell Rodrigo that I just emptied the bank account. I'm sure he'll understand.
So this card's got to be one of the best changeling cards they've ever printed. I honestly don't know if it's a good dragon card, though.
Yeah.
When I think about it, I'm like, in a dragon deck, first off, I don't think I'd play any mana rocks because I just play real ramp if I'm in green, and so I don't need any of this. But even if I was a mana rock believer, I think this is like Arcane Signet level. I see it very similar to, like, I think there's an actual choice between would I play Arcane Signet or this in my deck, and I think the Arcane Signet might actually just be better.
Yep.
Because I can play it on turn 2 and make mana to
You
ramp
can ramp
into my
into your
dragons, not
dragons.
to ramp. What, I play my 6-drop and ramp into my 8-drop? Like, whoa, way to go, Mox. Like, so yeah, I think it's actually like Arcane Signet level or worse in dragons.
I would still run it in every dragon decks because it's
triggers Ugin.
cool. It looks
And
cool.
it is cool. The flavor is
and
great.
it's a dragon card.
If you have storm synergies, it gets better. If you're dragon storming, or there's that new storm dragon that we might talk about later from the set, like if you have things that care about how many spells you cast the turn, then it does go up in value, I would say.
Imagine
Dracogenesis comes out a turn earlier because you play like a dragon and then Jasper, and the next turn you play a land and then your Dracogenesis or something like that. I don't think it's worse, honestly. It's just not going to be fast mana. It's going to be extra mana later on, I guess.
And one thing they did in this set, which I think Krim's about to tell us about, is they did start putting some cheaper dragons. And the more cheap dragons you get, the better Mox Jasper gets. Krim, why don't you hit us with a card?
All right. So the next card I want to talk about, though, is not a dragon, though.
Oh, okay.
Boo.
Ignore the segue.
So I was like, But
Does he say
wait,
it's a
wait,
bit?
wait.
Layout.
Hear me out, okay? Hear me out. Because the next card I'm most excited for is a part of the will cycle.
Okay.
Ooh.
So
I'm a big
not a
fan.
dragon, right, technically, but can be played alongside dragons. That's right, because you were all thinking about, no, not Will of the Teamer. Will of the Abzan! That's right. This card is gas.
It is.
3 and a black, choose one if you control a commander. As you cast a spell, you choose both. Any number of target opponents each sacrifice a creature with the greatest power among the creatures that player controls and loses 3. And then the other mode is return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. This is a house. I'm sorry. Look, I love
good.
my instance, but like you're telling me I will play this sorcery if I edict everybody. That's huge. Then I also make them lose 3 life. I'd love having an opponent lose life on top of that.
Davros approves.
Yes, Davros approved. Just aggressive game plan approved. And then also when you have a let's not lie here. This is an Will of the Abzan, but I'm definitely using this in like Mardu, Grixis. There's so many things I could do with this, and that Reanimator part of it is so nice. You picked off their best threat, and then now you get your best, like the best thing in your graveyard back. This card is a house. I'm sorry. That's so much mana that you're saving on, by the way. If I reanimate like even a 5-drop, I don't care, a 4-drop, that's great. Combine that with an Edict that made you lose 3, that's above its rate. I love this card.
Wait, even? No. The floor can't be a card that's more expensive than this. The floor is you play this on curve and the 2-drop died, right? So
Sure.
I'm not saying the card is bad, but if you reanimate a 2-drop, it's still good. If the 2-drop is like...
I do whatever.
Dorothy Voidwalker.
Sure.
Sect itself, well, that's more reasonable, and it's still super good. Although, I play a lot of Shieldred, the one that's a saga on the backside. It costs 5, yeah, but it also edicts the table for, I think, the strongest creature they have, or the most expensive. And then it flips into the saga that does everything. I don't know which one I prefer here. This one's 4, you need your commander for both. I don't know.
I will say with Shieldred, it tends to scare people. And maybe I'm making the Richard argument
you might be
here.
right.
But I do feel like I rarely see it flip, and I often see it hit the battlefield, and people kill Phil because we're afraid it's going to flip. So that would be my concern, is it is like very scary. Also worth mentioning, it's just each opponent sacks a non-token creature or planeswalker, so it doesn't necessarily hit the biggest one, but it does cut tokens out of it. Shieldred.
Oh, that's why.
I will say, with this card, I am not a believer in edicts. I think they're pretty bad in Commander.
Not yet.
But this edict, I will actually play, because my problem with edicts is someone can just sack a random token, right? Or sack a random 1/1 in the late game. Always getting the biggest creature and scaling for Commander so you hit each opponent, and even throwing some damage in there as a bonus, that makes this good for me. And yes, it is true that it's not great on curve on turn 4, not exciting on curve on turn 4, because there's not going to be big creatures out, but it's very good in the mid game or the late game, right? Once people actually start playing their big stuff, their commanders, you can play this. I lost to Avacyn a few months ago, and that has really changed my perspective on the removal I need. This is another card that gets rid of the indestructible stuff. Yes, I don't want to lose to Avacyn again. That's not going to happen. So this is an edict that I would actually play, and I think is pretty good. In worst case, you can just zombify, which isn't an exciting reanimation spell in Commander, because you got reanimate and animate dead, but still 4 mana to reanimate something is not horrible. It's reasonable enough. And if you get both, oh boy.
I think both, like, singularly, like basically all the will cycle minus like 1 or 2 outliers. All the will cycle is like, if you don't have your commander out, it's underpowered. If you have your commander out, it's like super overpowered. And this one it kind of fits that, but it's like in terms of the entire will cycle, they made a new one with the commander precons, 1 in each precon, so there's 5 new total, 1 for each monocolor. I would say the black one and the white one are my 2 favorites, and I'm a big believer, just like Krim. I love these type of edict effects that don't just hit like a random creature. This is like the greatest power, and typically the greatest power usually means the one that they wanted to sacrifice the least, right? It's like the greatest threat for each person. I like that. The reanimation is really nice. I had a question for Krim, though. There's another will that actually has exact same mode as Will of the Abzan. The first one, at least, has a different secondary mode. It's Zat's Will, which is a 5 mana. It's 5 mana black, and it's instant speed. It has exact same first mode as Will of the Abzan. However, the second one, it exiles graveyards and makes a bunch of throw tokens.
Yes.
Which one do you like more, or would you just run both?
my sweet child, you are asking the most biased person of all time. I am going to play both because you saw me play Zat's Will already this past season. I love that card. It's graveyard hate and an edict. This is a graveyard hate and a reanimator, or an edict and a reanimator spell. So I love them both. They both serve a different purpose, and Zat's Will costs more, but it is instant. So I do like that. But Will of the Abzan gets me something and edicts. And it's cheaper. I actually think Will of the Abzan is the one I would pick if I had to choose one.
Yeah, I mean it's less mana, and my big thing with Zatzwill is I don't think the token mode's that good. Like I think that reanimating a creature is stronger than making a bunch of 0/1s. So or more evergreen. Like there's scenarios where Zatzwill's like absurd, and you like get the reanimation target, or you have synergies for your 0/1s. But just in a vacuum, I think reanimating's better than making some thralls. So I would probably choose that one too. But let's keep moving on. Since we're talking about wills, I know Will of the Abzan's pretty cool, but there's really only one of these new wills that actually matters,
Yes.
and that is Will of the Temur. So Will of the Temur, it's our blue will. It's a 6-mana sorcery. Same formatting, choose one if you get commander, you get both. Create a token that's a copy of target non-land permanent, except it's a 4/4 dragon creature with flying in addition to its other types. Any permanent can hit your opponent's stuff, doesn't matter. And then the big one, target player draws cards equal to the greatest mana value among permanents that you control. So how this works by itself is, if you have your commander, you can cast this, copy the highest mana value permanent on the battlefield as a 4/4 dragon. That token will maintain the mana value of whatever you copied, and then you'll draw equal to that mana value. So just that by itself is already absurd. The thing I love about this card is we've talked about, and this isn't a popular opinion, but I think blue is one of the weaker colors in casual commander. I think it's down just above red, essentially, for one of the worst colors. And one of the reasons is it's lost what it was best at, which was drawing cards. In the old days, one of the big reasons blue was good was the color of card advantage, but especially with us having like Rhystic Study Band, and with green and white getting such better card draw, black getting even more card draw, I feel like blue needs a card like this. This is the blue Rishkar expertise, the blue Return to the Wild speaker, this like mass card draw where I play this one thing and I refill my hand, plus you get a dragon out of it, and you even trigger Caretaker's Talent if you're Phil.
Or
So
you
you
can
draw,
copy
you
it,
get
and
plus one
that's
extra
even better.
card, yeah.
It gets even better with the talent. You can copy the talent and then use the talent to copy this. Same with 3 Blind Mice. This card is so cool. I just can't believe both of these modes are just, the ceiling of this card is so crazy. I don't know where do I play it? We'll see. But my God, copying Caretaker's Talent with this and then paying 1 to copy it. Then, oh my
So
God. And then oh man, it's just so good. The 6 mana is steep, so you probably need to play, I don't know. I guess
It's going to be at its
it's
best
not-
on Simic, awkwardly.
Yeah,
I think it's
I don't know, like
Yeah.
it's so much value that 6 isn't that much anymore. Like you create a 4/4 flyer and draw, let's say, floor is 3 cards. There's probably a 4-drop at this point. It's anything on the battlefield. But let's say 3. So for 6 mana, draw 3, create a 4/4 flying. That's not the best, but it's okay. I guess the floors literally do nothing. But
no, we can always copy like a land, you know.
I guess you
Yeah.
can copy a land
a
and
4/4
you
land on the
can
top.
draw 0. Or you don't have your commanders probably.
Or you don't have
a
commander,
flyer.
yeah.
Then you have a 4/4 flying for
So
let's play this when you have something going, and then, oh man, oh boy.
I think this card's kind of mid.
Ooh,
sorry.
Temur doesn't like it.
So the reason why I
Oh,
think it's
gosh.
mid is it should have been instant. If it was instant, I would have been very much on board.
Oh my God.
But at
That's not
sorcery
the
speed,
Temur way.
yeah, but okay. First of all, so the main issue is that first of
can
all, if
get
I
blown
draw
up,
like
yeah.
8+ cards and I spent 6 mana to do that, I'm going to move to discards or whatever. I don't get to get that value early on, which I don't like. Number 1. Number 2, these things target. So you need to target the permanent to copy it, and then you get a 4/4 creature out of it. You need to target and you have to have the greatest mana value as well too. So target player, that's fine. But like if you want to copy something at instant speed and you target and you spent 6 mana at sorcery speed for it, you're just like
Are
you're
you saying I
hoping
can
people are tapped out.
redirect?
You're hoping people, yeah, you can actually.
I get
but-
deflecting.
But
slot, right?
I get to copy. Yeah. It sucks. So like you have to hope that everybody's tapped out, and you're waiting for. If it was instant speed, I'd be like, hell yeah, I'm definitely on board. This is great, especially if I can like draw, refill my hand on instant speed, the end step before my turn, and then I can just immediately utilize everything. Why is it sorcery though?
It would be a
6
little
mana
crazy though. You could just
It's
target
fine.
the opponent's
So
stuff so you
wild.
don't get
It's
asked
fine.
for.
Plus, is Temur. Let me introduce you to Reliquary Tower and all the other. I play Decanter. I play Thought Vessel. My deck is overloaded ways not to be able to discard hand size, so that part doesn't scare me. Temur, my real question though. My real question is this: does it make it any better that you can target your opponent's things with it? So, like, yes, if you go to copy your best thing, it's a very juicy target to removal. But what if you target the best thing of the person who you are afraid has removal? Then at least you're putting them in a position where if they want to fizzle your spell, they're going to have to kill their commander, they're kill their portal to Phyrexia or whatever big bomb they have on the battlefield. Like, so I think if you play it that way, it reduces the risk. It doesn't eliminate it, but I think it makes it a little bit less risky if you target your opponent's stuff.
That's very true. That's a good point. It's just like usually I want to target my own stuff because like my deck synergizes with itself.
Because you can't build around. Yeah.
If like Phil has like a Phyrexian portal or something on the battlefield, then yeah, I'd love to copy his stuff over mine. Well, there's always situations where it does get a lot more safe to use, but instant speed, please.
Well,
I think it's just okay. So I'm with Temur. I think it's mid. It's just okay.
Man, you guys do not appreciate drawing cards enough.
Oh, I do.
Play the hell out of this.
Let's see another card that Phil will play the hell out of. Phil, it's your turn. Hit us with a card.
No. So the card is Auroral Procession, and I feel obligated to talk about it because it's like once you're Simic, that is very power-crept regrowth, and I didn't think they do that. It's 2 mana, it's Simic, just blue and green. Instant, return target card from your graveyard to your hand. No permanent card, no sorcery. It's just anything in the end step, probably. You get it into your hand. Or like in response, you have like a counter that you want to get back. It's just for 2 mana, you get access to your graveyard. Whatever you want. And that's gotta be good, I guess. I mean, I don't usually, like, the only real, I'm not gonna play this in Lonis because it's not a creature. But that's gotta be good, right? Whenever I have a regrowth, I usually play it more in Arena and Brawl because it doesn't make the cut in my decks usually. But this one, it's gotta be good.
I
Right?
mean, I'm gonna be jamming it immediately into my Kalamax deck, where Kalamax, if the creature's tapped, if the creature's tapped, if in the first instant you cast each turn gets copied for free as long as Kalamax is tapped. So for 2 mana, I get to double regrowth, which seems pretty good. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think this card's really good. I was trying to think, what was the previous cheapest instant speed regrowth effect? Like, is this the cheapest one now? Like, there wasn't another 2 mana instant that did it. I know we have 2 mana sorceries, like literal regrowth does it, but we don't actually have, there's like restricted ones that only gets a permanent or something. But I think that is enough to make this card very exciting. Like, regrowth at sorcery speed is fine, right? You can cast it to get back whatever you need and like execute your game plan. But at instant speed, as Phil mentioned, it's wild that for 2 extra mana you can get back the mana drain that you cast a few turns before. You get back like some instant to save you, which is something you couldn't do with other versions of this effect. So I think if I'm in Simic, I would play this in a lot of decks. I don't think it needs to be any specific theme for me to want to play this card.
I think the big thing for me is like, let's say I want to wipe the board, but I don't have enough mana to regrowth and cast the board wipe on the same turn. It feels really bad to be like, okay, I regrowth. I'm gonna take Decree of Pain and put it to my hand.
People see it coming.
You know, like, and then it's like awful. But this, you could do it on end step, then cast it on your turn. I really like that gameplay. That's why I highly value instant speed.
Fully agree.
Yeah, I feel like
instant
this
speed
card
the
is.
way.
Yeah, I feel like I'm not gonna get it and put it into any of my decks for now, but I feel like if you put it into your deck, you don't feel bad about it. Like it seems like a Eternal Witness pretty much, and that's still very playable, right?
The only thing I'd say against it is I have an MDFC, that Valak Ed Recovery, that fits in so many decks just because it's a land. That if I can spend a land slot on it instead of a spell slot, that's the only thing I like slightly dislike about it, but I still think the card's really good. Anyway, let's move on to the top of the order. Round 3, our final round. Temur, hit us with a card.
I had like a long list.
I know we could have done 2 or 3 of these podcasts. We had like 7-10 cards. Yeah, it was so many.
I'm so sorry for anybody who's tired of dragons, but I I and many dragon people are not tired of dragons, so I have to go out on a dragon note, which is Stormscale Scion, baby. It's a 6-mana red dragon 4/4 flying. Other dragons you control get +1/+1. But what's this at the very end? It has the storm mechanic. That's right. For every other spell you cast before this one, you make another copy of it. So you get a token copy of that, and they all buff each other. They're all giving each other +1/+1. You have a giant army of dragons, and then hopefully you have a haste enabler on the battlefield, a dragon tempest or something cheeky like that. And then boom, you have a game-winning army. It's beautiful. I love it. No notes. It has storm. It's Dragonstorm. The set, Dragonstorm, and this is a dragon with storm. Perfection.
Yeah, I gotta say, it's funny how this is one of the most fair storm cards ever. It is strong and stuff, but if you want to break something like this, you play Empty the Warrens. So this is just the super fancy but very fair one. I guess with Terror of the
It's not even that good.
It's
good though.
Heals. Wait, you gotta. So you play one spell before this, then you have 2 anthems, and then you have 2 5/5s, and then you have 3 6/6. That's all super fine. It's still a 6 draw.
It makes sense in the context of like Mox Jasper and this like casting dragons for free. They kind of built this weird storm dragon package into the set. And I think in a deck like that, it's kind of wild, right? Because then you can play Dragon Tempest, so you're getting all this damage and haste out of your dragons. You have Terror of the Peaks. You have whatever, Scourge of the Valkyries. Is that the Dragon Tempest?
Yep.
It's a dragon. Like, once you have stuff like that, you only really need like 2 or 3 dragons to probably win the game. And that seems kind of achievable. Like, yes, it's probably worse than emptying a Storm deck or like a Perforos deck or something, but the fact that you're getting 5/5s and the Anthem effect out of them, you're getting these really massive creatures instead of 1/1s. It is relevant when it comes to dragons because they have so much stuff that triggers based on like the power your creature is coming to play and whatnot. So I actually think it's pretty cool. I don't think it's like busted, but it is a sweet and playable card, I think.
Yeah, if you have Dracogenesis and Tiamat in the command zone and this in your deck,
you should win.
And Terror of the Peaks in your deck. I mean, yeah, it's a lot of stuff, but
I mean, if you're in a Tiamat
cool.
deck, you play Dracogenesis, and then you just kind of win at that point, right?
Yeah, then you kind of cast 5 dragons. One of them
do
is
the
this.
storm scale.
Yeah.
No, I mean it is a fantastic red choice, I think. Wait, no, it's one of the choices. Like you play that.
Yeah, I checked Tiamat as well. I thought all colors.
Yeah.
It's just different.
No,
so you
it's
can get Terror of the
5.
Peaks in this.
And then you get the one that does the damage to the face Terror of the Peaks or something. Yeah, and you play that the Storm Dragon last, and it's just like GG.
Yeah,
Oh,
you definitely
so
build a winning
package
package out of that.
I'm
for
putting it
sure.
in my Feywild Visitor Ganax deck because the tokens that this makes, I can make 3 per turn, and they're all dragons. They're fairy dragons.
Ooh,
So they get really
spicy.
good buffs from this. They actually go wide. This is fun.
Well, Krim, why don't you hit us with a card?
All right. Well, as you know, there's other things in this set that aren't just dragons, and one of
What?
them is a combat
Really?
trick. Yeah, I know, and it's a really cool little combat trick. We all love our deflecting palms, so we always meme on deflecting palms. So new way forward, 2 and
yes.
Jeskai. Next time a source your choice would deal damage to you this turn, prevent that damage. When damage is prevented this way, new way forward deals that much damage to the source's controller, and you draw that many cards. So, I get to also draw cards and deflecting palm you. This card is, not gonna lie to you, this is the sole reason I want to build a Jeskai deck. This card, and then I get to play deflecting palm. Like, I get to really add that up, like both of those cards into one deck. I'm all in. I do not know if this card is like actually good, but it is fun. It is
fun.
really funny, and it will always give those stories, where you're like, you remember when you try to Banefire me or whatever? Okay, well, here it is. And then you get to draw cards on it, and there's a chance maybe I deck myself out. But like, who knows, right? I just want to redirect the damage or send the damage back and draw some cards.
It gets around
It's so
Hexproof
sad.
Shroud too.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
target.
Well,
Yep.
Because you are
it
just
doesn't
like-
actually target the source. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. If this would fork, though, it kind of sucks that it's only one
Yeah.
source. Like, if
Yeah,
it would
this
say
hurts.
prevent all damage.
Oh, that would. Are you kidding me? You would deck out for sure. Like there's
yes,
too much.
but
It'd be worth
there's
it.
also Ink Shield, and we already don't play this.
Yeah.
So that's
Whoa,
kind
whoa,
of
whoa.
bad. Just for the card. I would love to
you
love the
may
card.
not
You
play
don't
that.
play
That
it,
card
yeah.
is gas. All right.
Ink Shield is actually the
Also,
truth.
don't
What are you
try
talking about?
to prevent a Banefire with this. Just this one.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
right.
because
Bait,
it's
sure.
cantrip.
Banefire in
can't be
specific
prevented.
doesn't work,
But
right?
whatever.
Just
Some kind of X spell, right?
Just-
But
Yeah.
like the main
This is-
thing is being able to like send that damage back and then drawing a ton of cards is really funny.
It is super
It's
funny,
no
and I'm
Ink
gonna
Shield,
try it. But
yeah.
I played Ink
I'm-
Shield in the command zone, and it didn't work. So I don't know.
Well, because why are you putting it in the command zone? Like what?
Whatever.
It's a
people
card
not
that
gonna attack me.
relies, but no, it relies on your opponents not knowing about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Leaving up 5 mana in Jeskai. That's also the problem. You gotta be in Jeskai.
The best color combination? Yeah, what a commitment that is.
Just so the viewers know, this card actually kind of sucks, right? That's my opinion. This
What?
card is
No.
actually
I
like
feel so
absolutely horrible and like
No.
one of the worst cards in the set. I will say
When
I
it's
still
good, it's
like
good.
it because it leads to really funny moments, and I
I-
love that those moments in Commander. So that's the part I like about this card is you are going to have great stories to tell, and that's a big reason a lot of us play Commander, right? If you go to your game night once a week with your friends, you want to come away with it with some great story you're talking about, next week when you go to game night, and this card's going to lead to those moments. But as far as being a good card that's going to win you games, I
This is one of
honestly
them.
think this is the worst card we've talked about today. Like, as far as increasing your win percentage, this card will drop your win percentage the most by putting it in your deck out of every card we've
No.
discussed
Oh,
today. I believe. Look at the rest of the
I
cards we
think-
talked
I
about.
think
You
you're
actually think this is
seriously
better than
underrating
any
it.
of them?
Yes. Well,
So, okay,
well,
here's why I think this
yeah.
card sucks. Let me explain it real quick. It only prevents one source of damage. So unlike Ink Shield, which I also think is not good, this doesn't actually save you from an attack. If your opponent swings at you with more than one thing, then this actually, what do you draw a couple cards as you die to the rest of their board? So it doesn't even guarantee that it's going to save you, which at least is a virtue of Ink Shield. With Ink Shield, I think it's just too much mana to leave up. This does like 1/10 of what Ink Shield does,
But
which
it
means
drops.
it doesn't even save you. And yes, you get to draw a few cards as you die, but what are you going to do with the cards because you're dead? You can't play the cards once you're dead, Crib. You gotta spend them while you're alive.
Okay, all right. The challenge has been placed. It's gonna happen. But just
yeah.
So
Don't
like
go
I
with
said, I
just
like it.
like,
It's funny, but I just
so
don't think it's
When
good.
it works, it's
I
gonna
think
be
you
great.
undervalue it. I think there's a couple things. First of all, when your opponents are swinging lethal at you, right? Usually they don't swing like 100 extra damage to you. They're usually swinging like enough because they need to kill other people as well. So usually
Okay.
they swing like an X amount. If you can take out one of those things, the biggest thing usually, we've seen a lot of times on Commander Clash, for example, where like somebody has a Source of Passion or something and survives an otherwise lethal attack. This could be the similar ability. The second thing is that if you're in a meta that has a preference towards Voltron decks, which I don't think we necessarily have that much on Commander
Yeah,
Clash, but I know like at some metas have a lot of Voltron strategies. This is one of the best ways of actually just hard countering it, right? Because it doesn't target, so it gets around the traditional Voltron protection spells like Lightning Greaves and stuff like that. Anything that gives hexproof and shroud and whatnot, this can still get around it. So I think it does focus very well. I don't think it's Ink Shield level.
That's not.
But I think you guys
good.
are
No,
underrating
no.
how effective it can be.
I need to go 5 colors so I can play this and
And
Ink
Ink Shield.
Shield.
5-color fogs.
It's.
I'm putting this
Sorry,
in Captain America, by the way. This is
I'm
going
putting
to my
it in-
cap deck.
I'm putting it in Sedgeru 100%. But like, yeah, I don't think it's like the best card, but I think it's better than some of the cards we mentioned already.
Okay, so
Mox
there's a card called
Jasper.
Seed Time. It's a 2-mana green extra turn spell, but it only works if an
No.
opponent casts a blue spell in your turn, and it's a sorcery. So
Okay.
when you cast this, it's a time walk. So it's crazy good if you cast it. And I feel like this kind of goes in this direction, maybe not as extreme, but usually you prevent like a 5 drop with it, like 5 power with this, draw 5. Just play Will of the Temur if you want to draw some cards. I don't know. Like, I love the card, and when it got spoiled, it got immediately posted into a group, and we were all like, "What?
Wait,
I don't-
What's
it's-
more likely? No. What's this comparison? What's more likely? One, you have seed time in your hand and somebody counters your spell on your turn.
0%.
Or
I
two,
tried.
somebody swings at you and you have 5 mana available late game. Like, just somebody attacks you. Like,
One
I
is
feel like
very much so more likely to happen.
one we see
I know,
every
I know.
time.
I know, but let's see.
Like, what if
you know,
nobody's even playing blue at the table?
It's
Seed
my
time
best
does like
guy.
absolutely nothing.
And
Okay,
least
we'll
it's in
see, we'll
Jeskai, so it's a Drago color. Like, it does get better
That
if
is
you're
true.
planning on leaving. If you're playing a Crim deck where you're like, I'm just gonna leave up all my mana every turn, like one of those control style decks, then it gets way better, right? Because it's not as punishing to leave up 5 mana if you're planning on doing other things anyway. So I think it's in a better color combination for the effect than Shield is, because Orzhov is more tap outy than Jeskai, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm sure there will be some brutal moment on Commander Clash where Temur gets me with this card and dances on my corpse as I concede. So I'm sure that will happen, but it's still not going to convince me it's good.
Or the Pyrewood something Gearhulk, just I'm looking at this card and crying.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see. That could also happen. Like, we'll
All
see.
right.
Gear Hulk.
I have a card that I think is very good, and it's a card I think that we kind of forgot about because I'm surprised it didn't show up on anyone else's list. There's so many good cards in this set, but the card I wanted to shout out is Tempest Technique. So Tempest Technique, it doesn't go in every deck. It's another Storm card. It is a 4 mana. Let me pull up the text here. It is a 4 mana aura that has Storm, so you copy it for each spell you cast before it this turn, or that was cast before it this turn. You enchant a creature you control, an enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each enchantment you control. So this is like an all that glitters style effect for enchantments in specific, doesn't work in artifact decks, but is essentially like an all that glitters effect, except you get to copy it for each spell that you've cast before it this turn. And I think this is one of the best finishers for aura decks for sure, and also for a lot of enchantment decks. If you've ever seen like a Sethis deck, the amount of cards they cast in a lot of turns, because these Enchantress decks are usually like, you play Sethis, you play something that makes mana, and you chain together a bunch of cheap enchantments. It seems pretty realistic. They're going to be getting 5, 10 copies out of like some enormous amount, and they all are going to count each other. So if you get 5 copies of this, you know you're going to have at least 5 enchantments on the battlefield, because each of these are enchantments. So essentially, I think this is just like the new best way to finish the game if you're some sort of enchantment deck that has creatures in your deck. If you're an enchantment deck that's going to win by attacking, I think this is just your Craterhoof Behemoth or whatever, like the new best way for you to close out the game. So it doesn't go in most decks, but in the decks it goes in, I am legitimately scared of dying to this card, like out of nowhere super quickly. It's so insane.
You don't need a high storm count too. You just need to got like 2 spells and then this, and like you said, Enchantress decks casting a bunch, they basically storm off every single turn. If you
that's
haven't
what
like
they do.
if you haven't
This,
bullied
yeah.
them all game, by turn 4 they're just like storming off every single turn. I cast an enchantment, I draw a card. I cast an enchantment, I draw a card. My Sarah Sanctum taps for 15 mana. Okay, my 2-drop enchantment also taps like whatever for a bajillion mana.
Sanctum
Okay.
Weaver, yeah.
It also triggers Constellation too, which I just think is cute. Like Citizen Champion and stuff. When it's like when a thing enters the battlefield, like they're already dead. You're already murdering them the turn you cast it. But then on the way out,
Rub
like
some
you're
salt
making
in
a
the
bunch of
wounds,
like
yeah.
you're making a bunch of Pegasi with your Archon of Light's Grace or whatever on the way out, just in case. This card is absolutely fantastic. So good.
It's such an interesting design. Such a cool version of a enchantment Craterhoof, if you want to call it this.
Yeah.
So
it really is.
yeah. Pretty cool.
Crim's shaking his head. He's not.
No,
he's
I
not
think it's
happy.
very good. I think it's very good.
Okay.
Yeesh.
Wow. Yeah, it's absurdly powerful. And it does exactly what an aura deck wants to do, right? So it's like Seth put it is your Craterhoof.
It should have had Flash. If only it had Flash.
Oh,
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so you
Flash.
could die randomly.
uh,
All right, Phil. We got one more card to go. Take us home.
it's true though.
Oh man, this one, I don't even know how to defend this, but I want to know what the comments and you guys think about this. So, Hurt Heirloom, 2 mana, 1 in a green, an artifact. Add 1 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast a creature spell. Okay, a mana rock, a 2 mana rock. That's usually the ones that you play, but only for creatures, which is fine in green. And then it has another just tap ability. Tap until end of turn. Target creature you control with power 4 or greater gains trample, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. First of all, we get in the cactus that's really, really wants trample.
Yes.
And I think a lot of decks want to try this. So, funnily enough, it doesn't trigger this. Although, yeah, you can attack, then it gets plus 99,900. Then it triggers because it gets power 4 or more, and then you kill somebody and you draw a card. So, Mana Rocks in green. We usually don't do this. 2 Mana Rocks are fine. Only for creature spells, I think, is fine. At least for me, I play a lot of just creature, like 80%, 90% creature decks. Your commander is usually a creature. How often do you have to give something trample and draw a card for this to be worth it? And I think the number is 1.1 time, because I think 1 time is cool, but once it's slightly above that one, like every few games you do it twice, and then it's fine. And before this, it ramped you into your commander, so it effectively costs 1 or something. I don't know how you calculate this, but
I think you don't even need to have trample sometimes. Like sometimes you just want to draw, like sometimes you don't want that mana, you want to draw a card. The fact that it can do both for 2 mana is like just very good. And the fact that sometimes you do want to have trample. Like I think this card's a slam dunk in like go tall creature decks. They're very.
It's rare
super
that
good.
green wants to play a mana rock, so having that second mode
but then-
is more so
Imagine
why.
if it was any other color. Like it would be like green's just like so picky. This card's so absurdly good in
It's
any
true.
other color.
Yeah.
In green, it's like maybe.
Yeah, if it was red or something, it would be crazy.
I'd
I
be
still think-
salivating if it was red.
I still think green wants to play Mana Rocks. I think they want to play the trample and draw a card mode, but I think the Mana Rock mode on this card actually is pretty bad. I think mana this only for creatures in most decks is going to be frustrating at some point. Even if you're like 70% creatures, you're going to have times when you really need to cast a Wrath, and this is not letting you do it. You really need to cast something else, an artifact or enchantment. So I think it's like medium. I actually think the last mode is so strong, though. I kind of don't care that it's a medium Mana Rock. I see like green Phyrexian Arena in the right deck. We're just like, I don't think you're making mana. I'm playing this to try to trample and draw a card every turn. Like that's my goal of playing this card. I'm not like sure in the early game maybe I get some value out of making mana with it, but I'm playing it just purely to like draw an extra card, trample over my big dude at you again and again. And I think it's worth it just for that. Like I view the mana as like the bonus. Like every once in a while I'll make mana with it, but I'm interested in it just as a way to force through damage and draw cards.
Yeah, if your commander has 4 power, then it should be worth it, right? Like you drawing
Seems
a
like it to
card
me.
once a turn in a deck where you, let's say you play Storm P. That's good, right? I don't know if I want to be the one testing this, but
I'll test it.
I
I volunteer.
The other cool part of it is the trample's the instant speed too, which makes blocking very tricky. If you like swing with several big creatures, if the trample's at sorcery speed, your opponent knows, oh, I got to put a bunch of stuff in front of this, or I'm going to take a ton of damage. But if you can give the trample at instant speed, it's going to make it really tough for your opponent to like do chump blocks and stay alive against the big board because you can wait and see how they block and then trample over. It's good. I don't think mana mode's good.
If I play the
card's
cactus,
good.
I play this. I think
Oh yeah,
for sure.
really good with cactus. And like green plays a lot of big things. There's a lot of big creature green decks, so it's not going to be in any deck. But if you're a green deck that's playing a bunch of big creatures, I'd run this card. Anyway, I think that brings us to the end of our top cards or favorite cards from Tarkir Dragonstorm podcast. So we had so many more. Seriously, our list was each like 10 cards long. There's so many good cards in this set. It really is an amazing set. But you've seen what we like. Let us know what you like in the comments. What are your favorite cards from Tarkir Dragonstorm? Let us know. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. And we'll be back next week to talk about whatever goes on in the world of Commander. So until then, have a great week. And this is a crew signing out.